Hi there, I'm Kate. My brother humiliated me at his birthday dinner, cracked jokes about my welding job in front of the whole family like I was some punchline. They all laughed. But what none of them knew was that the company he'd just applied to, I co-founded it, and the name on his paycheck, it was mine. That moment was just the beginning of everything they'd ignored, everything they'd taken, everything I stayed silent about. Until now. What happens when the girl they always dismissed turns out to be the one holding the keys to their future? By the time I walked into the steakhouse, the room was already buzzing with small talk and the occasional clink of silverware. I didn't change after work. Welding leaves a smell, burnt metal and machine oil, and no matter how hard you scrub, it clings. I kept my jacket on. My hands still carried a faint stain from the morning shift. Let them see it. Travis stood at the center of attention like always, holding court with that smug confidence he wore better than any suit. Our mother, Lucinda, was doting, passing him extra slices of steak like he hadn't eaten since last Christmas. Dad just nodded along, keeping the peace like usual. I slipped into the end seat, right across from Uncle Orville, who immediately gave me the once-over. Didn't even change for the occasion, Katie? Before I could answer, Travis raised his glass. To 36, he began, his voice rising, to starting over and leaving behind jobs that smell like hot metal and regret. Some chuckled, Aunt Doreen, always the follower. Uncle Orville smirked. Lucinda laughed softly, clearly uncomfortable. But Travis wasn't done. And let's give a hand to my little sister, he said, gesturing toward me without looking. Still out there melting pipes in a man's world? But hey, she gets to wear fireproof suits to lunch. I didn't flinch. I didn't laugh either. Raymond, seated quietly near the window, looked up just long enough to catch my eye. He didn't say a word. He never did in family settings. That was our rule. I turned back to my plate, picked up my fork, and started slicing through the overcooked roast. Inside, I was calm. I'd learned not to take the bait. Let him have his moment. Let them all laugh. High school graduation came back to me like a punch. Travis got a second-hand Honda with a red bow on top. I got a toolkit and a pat on the back. You're practical, Katie. That'll get you far. They never meant to be cruel, but they were blind in the way that always cuts deepest, when it's dressed up as care. I glanced at my phone under the table. One new HR notification. Applicant. Travis Keys. My lips curled into a near smile. Of course he had applied. Titanarch was rising. His LinkedIn was sinking. Back home that evening, I peeled off my jacket, threw it over the back of a chair, and opened my laptop. The portal loaded. There it was, his application, all polished confidence and inflated buzzwords. I'm excited to bring strategic thinking to a growing tech firm. If I'm passed over, that's their mistake. Typical Travis. I hovered over the reject button. Just a second. 1 second longer. Then clicked approve. Let's see how he handles working for someone he's always dismissed. Let's see what he does when the person who signs his paycheck is the same one he mocked over dinner. After that night, I didn't mention the application to anyone. I didn't need to. Monday morning came fast, and with it, Travis in a charcoal gray suit, walking through the doors of Titanarch like he owned the place. I was already at my post upstairs in the control suite. Camera feeds, code logs, performance metrics. That's where I belonged. Out of view, but still everywhere. Watching him stroll across the marble floor like a peacock gave me no pleasure. I'd seen plenty like him crash the same way, head first. At 10 a.m., we had the interdepartmental kickoff meeting. He sat near the middle, beside our HR director, clipboard in hand, legs crossed, pen ready. I stayed quiet at the end of the conference table, next to Madison, who gave me a quick side smile. She knew I liked to observe first. Madison led with a high-level breakdown of our automation reroute strategy. Her voice was calm, sharp. She knew her numbers and how they translated to machine behavior. She was 2 slides in when Travis leaned forward and, with a casual laugh, said, "Look, maybe we should just let the welders focus on welding. We're here to sort out numbers, not play with metal sensors." The room stiffened. Even Raymond blinked. Madison stopped mid-sentence. "Excuse me?" she said, but her tone held back. I didn't say a word. Not then. What I did do was mentally file it. Exact quote. Exact look on his face. the same smug tilt I'd seen years ago when I was 19, standing in front of a whiteboard at a state college trying to explain my first mechanical prototype. That professor, older, tenure-clad, and patronizing, cut me off with a laugh and told me to try something more achievable for someone like you. Travis didn't know he'd just echoed that memory, but I did. When the meeting ended, people scattered like leaves. Madison walked off without saying anything. Raymond lingered, hands in his pockets, and as I stepped into the hallway, he followed. That went as expected, he muttered, eyes tracking Travis down the corridor. You good? I nodded once. Yeah, but I'm not swallowing it this time. Not from him. He paused. Let me know how far you want this to go. I'll let him decide that, I said. By how much rope he pulls on. Back at my desk, I opened the project archive and added a quiet note beside the session transcript. Flagged. Keys, Travis, initial conduct, cross-departmental. He didn't recognize me in that meeting, but I just made sure he won't forget me in the next. That Friday ended like many others. Another log filed, another subtle shot taken. By Sunday evening, I was finally able to sit still. A light rain tapped on the windows as I settled into my desk. Bills were due, and I had promised myself I'd check on the family's shared account before the week started. The screen loaded slowly. I scrolled through my parents' expense fund, the one I quietly refilled every month. It was meant for Dad's prescriptions, or the cracked front steps Mom never got around to fixing. I didn't expect surprises, but one line stopped me cold. Transfer, $22,000. Recipient, Travis Keys. I stared at it, blinking hard. The timestamp was 2 weeks ago, just before he joined Titan Arc. For a full minute, I just sat there, hands frozen over the keyboard. Then I picked up my phone and dialed. The line rang 3 times before Lucinda answered, cheerful as ever. Hey, honey. Hey, Mom, quick question. Did something big come up? A medical thing? I noticed a large transfer out of the shared account. There was a pause, one I could measure in heartbeats. Oh, that. Well, Travis needed it. You know, with the job situation and the mortgage piling up, he didn't want to ask you directly. I thought I'd just handle it. My voice didn't change, but my spine stiffened. Mom, that account's funded by my paycheck. Every dollar. Another pause. Then came her breathy chuckle, the same one she used when excusing things that didn't sit right. I figured you wouldn't mind. You've always been stable, Katie. He's had a rough go. You know how men carry things. They break in silence. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. I didn't trust myself to speak just yet. We talked for another minute. Weather, groceries, her new planter box, and then hung up. I stayed in that chair for a while, long after the screen dimmed. My eyes drifted to the bookshelf. On the top shelf sat a photo from senior year. Travis, beaming in front of his used Honda Civic. Me behind him, holding a cake I had made myself. That week, Mom told me, boys need independence. You'll always be more practical. I pulled the transaction file back up, added a note. Unauthorized withdrawal noted. I didn't forward it, not yet. They said I was strong enough not to need help. Maybe that's why no one ever offered it. 3 days passed. I didn't say a word about the money. Not to my mother. Not to Travis. I let the silence hang where the betrayal belonged, unspoken, but heavy. Midweek, I had a scheduled remote systems audit, so I stayed off the 9th floor. Travis had no idea where I sat, or how often I was watching, but he was making moves, noisy ones. From what Madison told me, he'd been poking around the operations logs, trying to understand the money flow. Typical. Men like him didn't ask questions. They assumed answers were waiting to salute. That morning, Travis was combing through the budget ledger on a shared screen. He leaned toward one entry, his forehead wrinkled, lips moving like he was sounding out a riddle. Hey, he said aloud, though not to anyone in particular. Who's K. Relia? This signature's on every Q3 authorization. A junior analyst shrugged. It's been on every project since I joined. Some kind of legal oversight, maybe? Travis grunted. Legal's under procurement. This is operations. By lunchtime, his curiosity had grown claws. He logged into the Access database and pulled up the last 6 months of expenditures. My initials were on nearly every green-lighted request. Tech investments, hiring budgets, Infrastructure reviews? K.Relia, K.Relia, he whispered, tapping his pen against his palm. Why isn't this name on the founder page? He stood and made his way toward the HR desk, forcing a casual air he couldn't quite pull off. Quick favor, can I get a current role access chart for budgeting hierarchy, just to align approvals for next quarter? The assistant hesitated, but eventually turned her screen to show him the list. His eyes locked onto the top 2 lines. Level 5, R. Tyson. Level 5, K. Relia. Internal use only. He blinked twice. Internal only? He asked, more to himself. She didn't answer. He turned back toward the elevators, walked with less swagger. At his desk, he printed 3 budget approvals, laid them flat, and stared at the signature line. One sticky note read, KR =. He wrote Kate Relia, then immediately scratched it out, balled it up, and tossed it. His jaw tightened. The hell is this? He muttered. How can someone sign off on everything and be invisible? He looked around like someone might be listening. The name was on every major decision he'd touched, and he was starting to feel like he was just another line item. By Friday, the building had that end-of-week quiet hum, half the desks empty, coffee cups left behind like they'd given up mid-shift. I waited until most of the office was cleared before heading to the basement. The server room wasn't on any public floor plan. You needed a level 5 badge and a reason, and I had both. A new patch had to be validated before the weekend system update. I liked doing this part myself. No distractions, no politics, just code and cold air. I was reviewing the final approval chain for the patch rollout when I heard the elevator behind me ding. I turned slowly, and there he was. Travis stepped in, holding a manila folder, scanning the room like he'd taken a wrong turn. When his eyes locked on mine, he froze. What are you doing down here? He asked, voice sharp. This level's restricted to senior execs only. I didn't answer at first, just held up my badge. He stared, his brow furrowed. K.Relia? He said, stepping forward. You're K. Relia? I tilted my head slightly. I've always been Kate Relia. You just never thought to ask. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. All that puffed-up confidence he wore so proudly seemed to deflate right there between the server racks. Raymond entered through the side hall, nodding casually, as if we were just finishing a coffee chat. Kate, got that Q4 allocation draft here. Need your signature before 6. I took the folder, signed without hesitation, and handed it back. Travis stood still, not blinking. You've been... He stammered. I cut him off. I've been exactly who I needed to be. Quiet doesn't mean absent. He looked like he wanted to argue, but didn't know where to start. I stepped closer. Not in anger, just enough to make sure he heard every word. You're good at what you do. That's why you were hired. But if you ever treat one of my engineers the way you treated Madison... I let it hang there. His mouth parted. I'll pull your project. Not for revenge, for standards. Then I walked past him like he was another glitch I'd already solved. He thought I was the welder in the back room. He didn't realize I'd built the entire damn factory. The weekend passed quietly, at least on the surface. I kept my head down and my badge handy. Monday came and went without drama, but by Tuesday morning, the quiet had a scent, like a storm that hadn't hit yet. A notification blinked in my inbox. Final roster confirmed for the AI deployment pilot. I skimmed the list once, twice, then stopped. Madison's name wasn't on it. I stood, walked straight to the ops desk. Hey, the engineer team roster just got released. Where's Madison? The manager, new guy, polite but disengaged, shrugged. Wasn't my call. I thought you approved the revision Friday. I didn't, I said flat. Back at my desk, I dug into the system logs. Version history flagged a silent change pushed through 2 days earlier. Editor, T-Keys admin, system comment, reducing redundancy, removing engineer overlap. I felt my teeth grind. I found Travis near the break room, standing like he had no one to answer to, which, unfortunately, he often believed. You cut Madison from the project, I said plainly. He didn't flinch. We don't need 2 people shadowing sensor validation. She was extra. No, she was necessary. You didn't cut overlap. You cut someone loyal. He leaned back, smirked like I was getting emotional. I reassigned her, that's all. I stared at him, then turned and walked back to my terminal. I opened the personnel action log to HR.Tyson. Subject, AI project staffing rollback. Body, unauthorized role removal of M. Barnes, engineer level 2. Reinstate immediately. Future role decisions under AI deployment must include dual signature K. Rilya plus lead ops. I hit send. You want to play executive? Then learn what happens when you pull strings in my house without asking. If he wanted a silent war, I'd make sure he heard every move I made. The next week rolled in quiet. Too quiet. No pushback from Travis, no smug remarks. But I've learned that in corporate warfare, stillness isn't peace, it's setup. Monday morning, just before lunch, I got the ping. Please report to HR executive admin floor. That line alone could sour anyone's appetite. I walked in to find Raymond already seated, arms crossed. Miss Patel, our HR director, waited with a file folder sitting untouched between them. I knew then this wasn't a routine check-in. Kate, she started, her tone too neutral. We received something troubling. She slid the folder across the table. I opened it, printed email. Anonymous. Subject, misuse of authority by K. Rilya. The accusations hit fast. Favoritism toward female engineers, co-founder status kept hidden from oversight, signing off budgets without board involvement. Raymond said nothing, just watched me. I took a slow breath. Where did this come from? Anonymous IP, internal, masked through a VPN, Patel said. Convenient, I muttered, then pointed to the approval records mentioned. You've got full system logs. Every signature I've made has a timestamp, session ID, and device match. Raymond nodded. We checked. Everything holds up. I kept flipping pages, each more absurd than the last. The tone in the email reeked of someone who'd been told no and couldn't handle it. This isn't about protocol. It's personal, I said. And whoever sent it knows exactly where to aim to make it look like misconduct. Patel sighed. We'll investigate. Quietly. Raymond leaned forward. We'll also do more than just trace this. I want you to go public next week. Board presentation. No more shadows. Speak as co-founder. They'll need to hear it from you. I paused. Going public would break every line I'd drawn between who I am and who they think I am. But silence wasn't safety anymore. It was cover. All right, I said. They wanted to smear me behind closed doors. I'd answer in front of everyone. You want to fight from the shadows? Fine, but I won't stay in the dark with you. Saturday came with no alarms, just birds, a cold breeze, and the weight of unspoken things. I drove over to Mom's with a grocery bag on the passenger seat and a knot behind my ribs. We did this every weekend. Her porch still creaked in the same spot. The same hydrangeas wilted too early in the season. Everything unchanged, except me. I stepped into the kitchen, only to find Travis already there, sitting with coffee like he owned the morning. He glanced up, barely acknowledging me. That was fine. My hands were full. Sweetheart, Mom cooed, taking the bag from me. You look tired? Long week at the office? I shrugged. Same as always. She didn't sit. She lingered near the sink, wiping down a perfectly clean counter. Travis stirred his cup slowly. I could feel the performance building. Mom began softly. I wonder if this pace is good for you. Maybe it's time you stepped back a little. Let your brother lead for a while. I blinked. Let him lead? He's really stepping up, she said, voice lilting with pride. And you've never been about titles? You always liked working with your hands. Quietly, I looked over at Travis. Not a word. Just that slow sip and smug silence. Mom, I said carefully, you're asking me to step out of my own company. For him. She froze, face faltering. No, I just meant, you don't need the pressure. You've always been strong. Maybe this life, it's too harsh. And Travis? I asked. He's made for it? Silence again. I saw the tears start to form in her eyes. It was her tactic. Cry first, dodge later. I stood. The fact that you think I need to shrink so someone else can lead. That's not love, Mom. That's dismissal. Then I turned to Travis. If you have something to say it. Stop hiding behind people. He wouldn't meet my eyes, just stirred his cup again. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I left the bag of groceries on the counter and walked to the door, steady and sure. I didn't raise my voice, I raised my boundary, and for the first time, they heard it. The Saturday sun broke through the auditorium skylights like it was part of the stage design. Titanarch's CSR launch was in full swing. Rows of chairs filled with interns, local press, and a few curious employees from other departments. I stood off stage, hands tucked behind my back, watching Travis at the podium. He cleared his throat, visibly nervous. When I first joined Titanarch, I had a lot to learn. Still do. But the person who taught me the most wasn't a handbook or a manager. It was my colleague and inspiration, Kate Relia. There it was, my full name, spoken with weight, not mockery. I didn't step forward, didn't wave. I just nodded as polite applause filled the space. No spotlight needed. They already knew who I was now. Later, walking the hallway toward the side entrance, I saw Raymond leaning against a wall, arms crossed. "He's grown," he said simply. I smiled. Only because someone pushed back hard enough. He didn't argue. Truth wins eventually, not because it screams, but because it stays. I thought about that as I left the building. I hadn't sought revenge. I hadn't needed a takedown, just peace, with facts that didn't need defending anymore. Later that morning, I arrived at Green Lake Cafe, same place Travis humiliated me weeks ago. This time, I wasn't dreading the seat at the table. Lucinda and Franklin were already sipping tea. I slid into my spot, nodding a quiet hello. 5 minutes passed, then Travis entered. He didn't swagger, he just sat beside me. No one said much, until Lucinda broke the silence. "This place has good muffins," she offered. Then Travis leaned forward, eyes on no one in particular. "If it weren't for Kate," he said, "I wouldn't be here. Not at Titanarch. Not really anywhere." Mom's cup paused midair. Dad just exhaled through his nose. "She didn't just build that company," Travis added, voice low. "She built a way out for me." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I didn't rewrite the family script. I just made sure this time, I wasn't written out. Sometimes the hardest battles we fight are with the people who are supposed to know us best. I didn't need revenge. I needed recognition. And I didn't win by yelling louder or swinging back. I won by standing my ground and letting truth speak for itself. If there's one thing this whole journey taught me, it's this. Silence may keep the peace, but it never builds respect. Your worth doesn't shrink just because someone else refuses to see it. And family? Well, it's not just who you share blood with. It's who finally learns to look you in the eye and say, "I was wrong." So let me ask you, have you ever had to prove your worth to the very people who should have believed in you first? Have you ever been underestimated because of your job, your choices, your silence? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear from you. If this video touched something inside you, leave a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from, city, state, anywhere. If you didn't connect with it, that's okay too. Let me know why and where you're tuning in. Your voice matters here. And hey, if you believe in more stories like this one, stories about growth, justice, and earning your name back the hard way, then hit that subscribe button. Join this little corner of real talk and second chances.